Today, let's talk green leaning blues. So green leaning blue is a blue that just pulls a little bit on the color wheel towards green. And cerulean blue is a very popular version of a green leaning blue for people's artist palettes. I'm looking at two different cerulean blues today. One is cerulean blue, just the traditional cerulean blue, and the other is a variation, cerulean blue chromium. Now, let's talk a little bit about cerulean blue in general. It's kind of a middle value, and if you're looking at some other green leaning blues, you might look at phthalos, and phthalos are very, very, very dark compared to cerulean blue. They're also can be a little bit hard to control, so some artists swear by using cerulean blue. Landscape artists particularly love them because they're the color of the sky, and almost straight from the tube you can use it as a sky color, and both are somewhat bright blue. So this Liquitex cerulean blue is pigment PB36, which is a mixture of cobalt and tin oxides. It's considered opaque and has excellent light fastness. And the Golden Artist Acrylics version, cerulean blue chromium. This is considered semi-transparent and it's the same pigment number. Now it's interesting when something has the same pigment number, that doesn't mean that they're exactly the same. Sometimes the pigment is treated a little bit differently. So in this case, even though they're both PB36, this cerulean blue is a mixture of cobalt and tin oxides. In the chromium version, the tin oxide is replaced with chromium. Supposedly it gives it a slightly greener tint. Now let's talk mixing. I'm using quite a few different colors that are very common on artist palettes. So I use titanium white, Hansa yellow lemon as our green leaning yellow, cad-free yellow medium as our red leaning yellow, cad-free red medium as our warmer red, quin magenta as our cooler red. Just one blue because we're testing blues. And then I have three secondary colors, which are dioxazine purple, sap green hue, and vat orange. So, all artist quality. Now let's look at the mixing sheet results. This column is the traditional cerulean blue. And I started off with, that's pure cerulean blue, and then added just a bit more and a bit more and a bit more white, just so you can see it. But if you look at the cerulean blue chromium, straight out of the tube, very similar. And then I've added a bit of white. And now, to be honest, I've heard that it's supposed to be a little bit, the cerulean blue is chromium is supposed to be a little bit darker, maybe a little bit greener. And really, I can't tell the difference. Maybe that's just because my artist's eye isn't developed enough. But for my purposes, I can't really tell a difference. Now, let's look at how the mixes worked. So Hansa yellow lemon, because it's a green leaning yellow, you kind of expect it to have really bright greens. And I wouldn't say, they're definitely bright greens, but they aren't like super, super vibrant green. You're not getting an overly electric yellow for either of these. And both of these are very, very similar. Yeah, the cad-free yellow medium, this is a red leaning yellow. So when you mix it with a green leaning blue, you can expect kind of a muddy yellow, muddy greens, and that's definitely what you can get. Now, when you're looking at these, just for your awareness, this column is where I've added quite a bit of the mixing color. So this is a lot of the cad-free yellow medium. Then I add a bit of white just so you can see. Sometimes it's a bit hard to see the undertones without adding some white. And in this column, it's a lot of the cerulean blue and just a little bit of the yellow medium. And the same for these. This is a lot of the yellow medium, and this is a lot of the cerulean blue. And again, adding white. So I'm not perfect when I do these. I just kind of estimate. So there's a bit of a difference here. I don't know that there's that much of a difference if I had, made sure to put exact amounts. Now let's look at the reds. So cad-free red medium, you can get a nice bricky color, and you can get a nice purpley gray. Nice, very muted, and that's because of the green that's in the green undertones of cerulean blue. Green is opposite on the color wheel from red, so you get kind of a muddied down version, which is really nice. You can get nice grayed out colors. Quin magenta, really it does dull it down a bit because again the green opposite on the color wheel from the red, but the blue makes it nice and purpley as well. Ultramarine blue, I don't see dramatic differences or dramatic changes when I do the mix. That's not surprising. They're pretty close together on their color wheel, but it really can help mute down the ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue having a bit of red undertones, so you can really kind of mute that down. Dioxazine purple. Dioxazine purple is an intense, first extremely dark color, and a very, very intense purple. So if you add just a touch of cerulean blue or the cerulean blue chromium, it really kind of neutralizes it just a touch. Or you can take your cerulean blue or chromium version and just kind of make it a little less kind of intensely and greeny looking. So that's nice. Almost gets you to kind of a muted down ultramarine blue as well. Okay, sap green. Now, what I found interesting and curious, or what I was curious about when I was doing these, is whether I would be able to get some sort of an oceany blue. And I kind of struggled with that, but I'd say this mix right here with the cerulean blue chromium got the most oceany. Again, that might just be the amount that I put, for the mix, because I'm not being overly scientific with this. But I found I could get more of an oceany green with sap green hue than I could with the Hansa yellow lemon or the Cadbury yellow medium. But you can get just really nice variations on sap green, just very nice muted colors. I quite like a lot of these colors, to be honest. And again, that's because sap green hue has a bit of red in it to make it kind of a dulled down green. And then you add the cerulean blue or chromium, which has green leaning blue, and it mutes it down even more, which is really nice. Now, vat orange isn't a very popular color on a lot of artist palettes. I have it because I really like it for doing florals because it leans a little bit red, so I can get a nice corally color. But for these tests, when I mix it with cerulean blue, I get kind of almost a purple leaning gray, just a hint of purpley-ish to it. If you were using like a cadmium orange, you'd get more of a nice, very neutral gray. But you can see here it's the purpley-ishness. If you add just a touch of yellow, you can get yourself to that nice neutral gray. And then the vat orange, also if you just add a touch of cerulean blue or the chromium version, you get like a really nice muddy orange. So when I look at all of these as a whole, I really don't see a dramatic difference. I did find that the cerulean blue, the traditional cerulean blue, was, I think the opacity made some of the mixes just a hint chalkier than this version of cerulean blue chromium, which is semi-transparent. So that's probably the biggest difference I noticed is, just more opacity, a little bit of chalkiness with the cerulean blue, less so with the chromium version. Now, let's take a look at a couple quick paintings I did. So these are some painting sketches. Again, here's the cerulean blue, and this is the chromium version. They're a tiny bit different, and that's just because they're two different paintings. But I found it was extremely difficult to get to a nice oceany green. And that could be because I don't really use cerulean blue that much. I usually use the phthalos. So I was able to get kind of a greeny color, but I couldn't really get like that nice, crystally blue color. And with practice, maybe I could get to that. Skies were really easy. I can get nice blue skies. Great for, the blue within clouds. That was super, super easy. So I can see how a lot of landscape artists would really, really like it. Overall, I think cerulean blue, it's really, really nice. I'm going to keep practicing with it, see if I can make it work for me, see if I go back to my beloved phthalos, and I'm going to show you really quickly, because I forgot to show you this when I was doing the mixings. This is the very first mixing sheet I ever did for any of these videos. And this was me testing out what's the difference between phthalo blue and red shade, or phthalo blue red and green shade. And I want to compare that to the colors that I was able to mix with cerulean blue. So when you're looking at what color or what green blue, if you're just going to choose one green blue, do you go with the phthalo blues or do you go with the cerulean? And you can see you can't get the darks the same way that you can get with a phthalo blue. You can get incredible darks, and this is one of the reasons why I like phthalo blue, is because you can mix almost blacks, whereas you really can't get that with cerulean blue. I mean, maybe with the orange, but I found with when you're mixing either cerulean blue or the chromium version, anything that I mixed would bring the value a little bit lighter. Like this dioxazine purple, it's like practically black in the tube, and this is just mixing with some cerulean, and it's no longer anywhere near as dark. So that's a choice that you'll want to make when you do make your choice, or maybe you want to put both on your palette. And the two paintings, not bad at all. I am, like I said, going to be practicing more, particularly with cerulean blue chromium, because I don't really see much of a difference between the two of them. Obviously, I'm almost out of cerulean blue, and I have lots of this chromium version, so I'm going to have a lot of testing to be able to do. And I know I'm not going to be sad using these, but it definitely is tricky to get an ocean color.